Cha, 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 Igbo kwenu, owe. Cha, 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 Igbo kwenu, owe. Cha, 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 Igbo kwenu, owe. Abia kwenu, owe. Anambra kwenu, owe. Ebonyi kwenu, owe. Enugu kwenu, owe. Imo kwenu, owe. Nigeria kwezuono. Hello, beautiful friends, families, and loved ones. This is Mr. B.O., a full-fledged Igbo son and teacher of Igbo language, culture, and traditions, including general issues that affect our lives in society, the lives of the Igbos, and the lives of the non-Igbos, including the general public. Okay, I welcome you all to today's segment, our Igbo lessons, as usual. Today, there are a few things we need to include among, what we discussed the other time about Igbo, particular thing in the Igbo land called OSU, or do I call it a norm? I wouldn't know the right word to use to describe it, the right adjectives. All right. Today, we are going to talk about one or two things that would make one to become OSU. And before we do that, I would like to talk about a few things that happened in the olden days in the typical Igbo setting, which made people to be addressed as OSU this day. One of those things is there were people who had some issues in the neighborhood back then. Some of these issues were giving birth to male children that did not have their testicles complete. You understand what I mean by testicles? Manhood, the two balls there, one was missing. So in such a situation, once the community found out, the next thing they would do was to send these people away from the land. This is called ostracizing. And so they will be ostracized. They will leave the land. In those days, like I was told by my granny, those who were actually ostracized from their home communities, their homelands, their hometowns, actually went to a town called Aro. Aro is in today's Arondizwok. I think based on their beliefs or I wouldn't know what really happened. They were actually allowing people to come into their midst. People that were ostracized were allowed by the Aro people to live among them. They never ostracized. They never create what was called we don't need to talk to you, we don't need to associate with you, we don't need to have anything to do with you, we don't have to have anything in common. So there was nothing of the sort. But then they welcomed anybody that was sent away from his or her town for any reason at all. So this continued. But there were people who swore that they would never allow their own town people to ostracize them. That means to chase them out of their own homeland to another place. They didn't want to live in another man's land. They wanted to continue to live in their own homeland, their lands of birth. Okay, such people actually went to the deities of the land. Deities are usually, even right now, then they were situated in faraway places from the main place or places where people live as I speak. So these people would run to the deities and hand over their lives to the deities, telling the deities to protect them from their own people who would want or wish that they were chased out of their own homeland or their towns and villages to Aro. So once such a thing took effect, those people wouldn't be chased away wouldn't be ostracized any further. Rather, they would be allowed to live within the precincts of the deities. So in Igbo land, the deities are called, they are called Abara. You could still hear some people call the deities Abala. Then Igbo Izube, that's the general Igbo, calls it Abara. Anambra people and some other people, especially Anambra people, parts of Anambra people will call it Abala. They will remove the letter R and replace it with the letter L. So the deities are called or known as Abara. So the deities are the ones that will now start protecting those people that came to want to be secure among them, to be secured by them, the deities. So the deities will continue to protect such people. Now, such people, from that moment, they swore that they wouldn't want to be ostracized outside their own land, have automatically become Osu. Their own people who wanted to chase them away would start seeing them as Osu because they intentionally, on their own, handed themselves to the deities of the land, the idols. So the idols will now protect them. So they have become the choice people or choice candidates of the idols. So nobody would ever lay a fist on them. So such people, whatever that happens to them, does not concern anyone. Whatever they do is nobody's business. But as long as they live, they are known and referred to as Usu. Okay? So that's one of the reasons, or one of the ways some people became Osu back then and still now. Okay, now let's talk about what would actually make people the deal, the freeborn. Let's not forget, freeborn. The freeborns are referred to as Diala in Igbo land. Diala. D-E-A-L-A. D-E-A-L-A. Then the Abara is spelled as A-B-A-R-A. Then if you follow the Anambra tongue, which is not the Igbo Izube, the general Igbo, you spell it as A-B-A-L-A, Abala, instead of Abara, the general Igbo Izube. Okay, now, one of the things that would make people to become Osu in this present age are as follows. If somebody intentionally has a sexual contact, or if there's a sexual union between Mwadiala and Osu, automatically the Mwadiala, that is the freeborn, has become Osu. That's number one. Yeah, it's not, there's no doubt about it. Nobody doubts it automatically, unless nobody knows about it. But in some towns in Igbo land, their deities are so strong that they will be able to dictate if one of the freeborn has committed such abomination. Because to the real Igbo people, the people in the hinterlands, it is an abomination to have sexual intercourse, a freeborn to have sexual intercourse with an Osu, whether the Osu man or Osu woman, Osu boy or Osu girl. So once a freeborn, Wadiala, does that, he or she automatically has become an Osu. Then everybody will start referring him or her as Osu. Then the second one, the third one, okay, the third one is when you intentionally fought an Osu person and cause him or her some injuries that will bleed. Once there is bleeding, that is once blood comes out of any part of their body during a fight, a physical, brouhaha with them, you that caused this, you that caused that Osu person to have an incision or an injury that brought about blood, that caused him or her to have blood, will automatically be seen and referred to as Osu. That's another one. Then, what else would make one to become Osu? If you have a sexual intercourse with them, you become an Osu in a typical Igbo setting. If you injure them during a fight and there is bleeding, or there are bleedings, you have become an Osu. Okay? if you marry one, even though you don't know, and you get married to one of the OSUs, automatically you become OSU. Unless when you have found out that the person you're getting married to or the person you've married is an OSU, then you go to your community and confess. Then they will call you for what is called cleansing because you did it without knowing. You know, then even though you know the implications, but you did it, you entered into it without finding out. That's why it's advisable in Igbo land for anyone who wants to get married, both the man and the woman should go to the town of each other to find out, excuse me, to find out find out who the person is, who the person actually is in the town. There are ways to do that. Maybe we'll discuss that some other time. Then that's it. So it's one of the ways to become an OSU in the typical Igbo land. All right, guys. See you some other time. Bye-bye.